Some of the most frightening and iconic dinosaurs in Jurassic Park were the Velociraptors, the 6-foot-tall killing machines. These dinosaurs were highly intelligent, highly skilled, and were arguably more deadly than the T-Rex. We've seen all kinds of raptors in these movies. Each movie brought something new to the series. Because of this, people have different opinions as to which raptors were the best overall, and it's hard to come to a general consensus. Well, I've decided that I'm going to determine once and for all which movie had the best raptors overall. I've been watching the Jurassic Park movies for 22 years, ever since I was 5, so hopefully I can do it justice. Here's how it'll work. I'm going to talk about 7 different categories and relate them to each of the movies. I'll give each movie a rating out of 4 for each category, with 4 being the highest. At the end, I'll tally up all the points. The movie with the most points will be declared the winner, and best all-around raptors of the Jurassic Park series. Just remember, as usual, this is based on my own opinion. Let's get started. One of the biggest challenges when making Jurassic Park was bringing the dinosaurs to life on the screen. Mark Crash McCreary was a concept artist for Jurassic Park, and he and Dr. Mark Hallett based their Velociraptor designs on the Deinonychus, a similar-looking dinosaur. Because of that, the movie raptors were much bigger than their real-life counterparts, and they lacked feathers. Every other movie in the series closely follows this approach. In Jurassic Park, the raptors were grayish-brown with a subtle striping pattern down their bodies. They also had lifeless green eyes, which made them look very scary. I think this design gives the raptors that cold-blooded killer look, which is perfect for what the filmmakers were going for. This design is the standard to which the other movies base their designs on, a very creative design that I'm going to rate a 3 out of 4. When The Lost World came around, it was time to give the raptors an updated look. Since the movie took place in the wild, it was only fitting that the dinosaurs looked wild. What they went with is my personal favorite design. The raptors were orange and white with dark stripes, almost like a tiger, which is perfect because it makes the raptors look more savage and animalistic. It's more or less a big improvement over the original design. However, they still lacked the feathers. While this is my favorite design, it didn't quite top what would come 4 years later, so I'm giving this design a 3.5 out of 4. Jurassic Park 3 is where things really took off for the raptors. In the other movies, they didn't have feathers. Around this time period, there were many fossil discoveries showing that raptors, as well as other dinosaurs, also had feathers. So, the filmmakers finally decided to give them feathers. JP3 also introduced the unique designs of both male and female raptors. The males were a dark bluish-gray color with a red stripe, red crest, and feathers on their head. The females were white with black stripes, but didn't have feathers. They were basically just a different colored raptor from the first movie. All the same, no other film in the series has this unique gender distinction. Out of all the Jurassic Park movies, these raptors are the most scientifically accurate and the most unique. I rate this design a perfect 4 out of 4. Jurassic World turned back the clock on the way the raptors looked, and stuck to the original design of the first 2 films. They had the same body type and features. The only difference is that they were a vast array of different colors, and each one had their own distinctive color. I think this was most likely done to help viewers identify each raptor specifically. It doesn't serve much purpose otherwise, as it's the same species of dinosaur, but with 4 different colors. By no means is it a terrible design, it just doesn't fit in as much with the others. I give this design a 2.5 out of 4. To summarize the design category, Jurassic Park set the groundwork for the Velociraptor design, The Lost World improved it, and Jurassic World went to town on the colors. But it's Jurassic Park 3 that gave us both scientifically accurate and distinctive raptors. The win goes to Jurassic Park 3. Throughout Jurassic Park, it was a mystery as to what the raptors were capable of. All we knew is that they were extremely dangerous. Well, not surprisingly, Hammond's precautions weren't enough to stop these dinosaurs from realizing their full potential. Cheetah speed, the ability to climb, to jump real high, and the ability to communicate, just to get started. They had killing claws and were capable of ambushing prey, and we got one last sneak peek to what they were capable of when Ellie finds Ray Arnold's severed arm. Then we finally got to see them in action when they killed Muldoon. If Grant's lesson on raptors had any truth to it, well, you do the math. But it didn't even stop there. What was probably the most shocking thing about these raptors was that they were able to open doors. You never expect a dinosaur to do that, but they did. Jurassic Park laid everything out with these raptors, no holding out. These raptors displayed the most capability ever seen in comparison to the other movies. For being that capable, these raptors get a perfect 4 out of 4. In The Lost World, we sadly didn't get to see the full capability of these raptors. This could have been because of how they were portrayed, which I'll get to later. As a result, we never got to see them set traps, open doors, or communicate with other raptors like they did in the other movies. However, they still had some good qualities about them that we did get to see. They were excellent hunters, especially for hunting at nighttime. They were able to use stealth to hunt their prey. And finally, they were astonishing jumpers as seen when the raptor's chasing Sarah. Just look at that jump. I think that jump's the biggest one from any raptor in the series. But this is where it peaks, however. We never got to see much else, all while knowing they could have done so much more. While this wasn't the full extent of their capabilities, it was a fair amount to show that the raptors were no pushovers. These raptors get a 2 out of 4. The raptors in Jurassic Park 3 were essentially the same as the raptors in Jurassic Park in terms of capability. They did everything the raptors in JP were capable of, but on a higher level. The chase scenes show us the perfect hunters in action. We knew that raptors were capable of setting traps, but we saw a whole new side of it when they used Udesky as bait. And just seeing how the raptors communicated with each other proved why they worked together so effectively. I also need to give a shout out to their amazing sense of smell/tracking ability, since they were able to track their eggs across Isla Sorna. This goes to show exactly what these raptors were capable of. As far as wild raptors go, these raptors had the most capabilities. They had the tools, the ability, and the instinct to help them survive. On a side note, there's one thing the raptors in JP3 did not do, and I have to take points off for it. Opening doors. We saw it in JP, but not in JP3. Now I'm sure they could have done it, but it's still just speculation at this point. Otherwise I'd have given them a perfect score. For this category, it's all in the doors. These raptors get a 3.5 out of 4. After seeing the raptors in captivity in the trailers, I was somewhat skeptical as to what we were going to see in Jurassic World. Would we see watered-down raptors, or would we see the deadly dinos we remember? Suffice to say, Jurassic World did not disappoint, because we were given amazing raptors. We saw the socially sophisticated animals in the beginning, and later we got to see their dangerous side we always knew was there. They were able to hunt together, and we even got to see them attack larger prey. We got a small glimpse of this at the end of Jurassic Park with the T-Rex, but it was just that, a glimpse. In Jurassic World, we got to see it all the way through when Blue and the T-Rex fight the Indominus Rex. This is how the raptors in the Lost World should have been at the very least. Now, it would have been really cool if we could see the Jurassic World raptors set traps like they've done in other movies, but we sadly didn't get that. Regardless, the raptors in Jurassic World certainly brought a lot to the table, and despite being in captivity, were capable of incredible feats. I rate them a 3 out of 4. As far as capabilities go, the Lost World's raptors were held back. Jurassic World's raptors were above average, and Jurassic Park 3's raptors come dangerously close to being the most capable of all. But it's the classic Jurassic Park raptors that showcase their abilities the most. The winner of this category is Jurassic Park. One of the things that made the raptors in Jurassic Park so memorable was their intelligence. We knew from Alan Grant that raptors had a large brain cavity, but we didn't know how that would translate in the present day. Well, these raptors weren't just intelligent, they were problem-solving intelligent, as Muldoon once said. They would attack the electric fences looking for weak spots. They somehow figured out that the power was off and broke free. They even lured Muldoon into a trap. But most of all, they were smart enough to open doors, let alone know what a door is. These were raptors raised in captivity, and they were smart enough to do all that. If they were that smart just being in captivity, imagine how they'd function in the wild. With wild raptors, you expect them to be smart, since they need to be smart in order to survive. With captive raptors, you wouldn't expect them to be as smart, but they were. Maybe even smarter. For that, I give them a perfect 4 out of 4. Now we come to the Lost World. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to these raptors in terms of intelligence. Yes, they were smart enough to dig under the door to get at Sarah and Kelly, and yes, they were also smart enough to stalk through the grass to kill the hunters, but that's about it. After that, it was just an action-packed chase with these raptors. They were more or less depicted as vicious brutes with not a lot of intelligence. Nowhere near as intelligent as the raptors in the first movie, so I'm going to be generous and give them a 2 out of 4. Jurassic Park 3 promised us intelligent raptors, and that's exactly what we got. Especially for being wild raptors, these raptors displayed a level of intelligence unlike anything we've ever seen. They were able to successfully set a trap, using Udesky as bait. Not only did they use him as bait, they knew exactly where to claw him without killing him in order to keep him alive for the trap. Again, these are wild raptors. It's only expected that they had to adapt to survive, and that involves exercising a great deal of intelligence, which these raptors had plenty of. Much more than what the raptors in the Lost World had. Now let's specifically compare the JP3 raptors to the raptors in JP, because this is where things get really competitive. Both were smart enough to set up traps. Both were smart enough to coordinate attack patterns, but the ones in JP have one up, as they were smart enough to open doors. Technically, we never saw the JP3 raptors do that. But wait, the JP3 raptors also have one up. let's look at the scene where Amanda Kirby sees the raptor behind the glass. Besides the fact that Amanda was foolish enough to fall for the trap, the raptor was perceptive of its surroundings to set the trap in the first place. It was aware that there were dead dinosaurs in the tanks, and it knew to mimic being dead for its trap. We never saw the first JP's raptors do that. Each of these raptors came from different environments, and were both able to accomplish something unique, each requiring a high level of intelligence. So on that note, both raptors are equally intelligent in their own right. It's almost impossible for me to choose one over the other, so I won't. So for the JP3 raptors, also a 4 out of 4. Finally, we come to Jurassic World. Now, there weren't many situations in the movie to fully showcase the raptors' intelligence, but we did see by how they communicated with each other that they were smart enough to coordinate attacks, as we see when they fight the Indominus Rex. This goes to show that they had a high degree of intelligence. Not as intelligent as the JP and JP3 raptors, but more intelligent than the raptors in the Lost World. I'll rate them a 3 out of 4. To recap the intelligence category, the Lost World's raptors were more or less angry brutes, while Jurassic World's raptors showed that they had a good amount of intelligence. But it's Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3 that gave us the most intelligent raptors. Each of those two are equally intelligent in their own right. The win goes to both Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3. Even in their paddock, the raptors in Jurassic Park were full of aggression. Remember when Muldoon said that the raptors would attack the fences when the feeders came? Even after being moved, their aggression did not subside. Being cooped up in their little enclosure, it's only natural that they'd build up even more aggression. They were bursting at the seams, just waiting to get out. Until then, they'd take their aggression out on the cows they'd be fed. As soon as a cow went in, it was dead in seconds. When the raptors finally escaped, it was time to let off some steam. But surprisingly, when they were in the kitchen, they took their time stalking the kids. The same goes for when they were stalking Muldoon, and even Ellie Sattler in the maintenance shed. It's almost like they were keeping their aggression at bay until it was time to unleash it. It was when they were chasing Grant and the others that their aggression was at the max. They'd smash through glass and even the ceiling, but there were still moments where they'd take their time to attack. While these raptors are all around aggressive, they were still able to keep calm and bide their time when they had to, so for that I give them a 3.5 out of 4. The Lost World once again decided to take a step up and improve the raptors. In terms of aggression, these raptors were one of a kind. They'd smash through windows, break into cars, basically destroy anything in their path to get to their prey. For example, take the scene where the raptors are trying to kill Sarah and Kelly. They shook the building trying to break down the door, and even went as far as digging under the door. Fueled by pure aggression, these raptors were relentless in their chase, and would not let up. Now they're very similar to the raptors in Jurassic Park, but the big difference is that the raptors in the Lost World didn't take their time. If they were in the kitchen in Jurassic Park, they would have ravaged it in seconds. Also, keep in mind that these are wild raptors. Wild animals behave much differently than animals raised in captivity. These raptors had only one goal: survival. They were always angry all the time. No restraints, no keeping calm, just pure aggression. These raptors get a perfect 4 out of 4. The raptors in Jurassic Park 3 were some of the most deadly, but surprisingly, some of the least aggressive. Why is that? Well, the answer is simple. They were only aggressive when they had to be. The only reason they were pursuing Grant and the others was because Billy stole their eggs. If he didn't take them, the raptors probably would have left them alone. Even when Grant and the Kirbys were surrounded by raptors, they could have easily killed them all on the spot. But they didn't. They just wanted their eggs back. It's when they tapped into their parental instinct that they also tapped into their natural aggression, and they demonstrated it very well in their pursuit, especially when killing Udesky. Unlike the raptors in the first two films where they were always aggressive, the raptors in JP3 weren't all around aggressive, just protective, which isn't the same kind of aggressiveness we've seen in the other movies, so that's why I'm only rating their aggression a 1 out of 4. Now with Jurassic World, things were sort of 50-50 in terms of aggression. There was some degree of aggression in the raptors since they were cooped up in their paddock, similar to the raptors in the first Jurassic Park movie, and you can see some of this aggression when they try to kill the handler and even Owen. Even though Owen was the alpha, he never had full control of them, and he knew that. We're reminded of this when Owen tells Gray that the raptors aren't safe. Other than that, the raptors were very calm throughout the movie. It was only when the Indominus Rex turned the raptors against the humans that their aggression was finally unleashed. They killed anything and anyone in sight. They demonstrated their true nature despite being raised in captivity. When it came to cornering Owen, the raptors took their time, just like the raptors in the first Jurassic Park. It may have had to do with the fact that Owen was the former alpha, that maybe they'd give him one last chance before killing him off. Who knows? But overall, these raptors did display a fair amount of aggression, just not as much as we've seen in the first two movies in particular. 2.5 out of 4. So to wrap up the aggression category, Jurassic Park gave us raptors that were highly aggressive, but still managed to keep their calm when they had to. Jurassic Park 3's Raptors were only aggressive when they had to be, and Jurassic World's Raptors were 50-50. But it's the Lost World's Raptors that displayed the most aggression all around. The win goes to the Lost World. You'd figure that being raised in captivity, the Raptors would learn social skills amongst each other, but surprisingly they didn't learn much at all. John Hammond claimed that he was present for the birth of every creature on the island, and that the Raptors would imprint on the first creature they came in contact with. Even if Hammond did imprint on them, he was never around. He had a part to run. The Raptors didn't have that outlet to learn social skills from an alpha. Now, I'm not saying that humans are the key to learning social skills, but when the big one came along and made herself the alpha, she sort of came in with an iron fist, killing all the Raptors except 2. The remaining Raptors may have only followed her out of fear. Because of this, the Raptors had very little social skills. This is much different than what we would see 22 years later. The Raptors may have had little social skills, but they did have enough to at least band together. I'm rating them a 2 out of 4. For The Lost World, this is an easy one. Given the other categories I've covered so far, and the fact that it was every Raptor for themselves, which I'll talk more about later, there were very little social skills displayed by these Raptors. There was almost no interaction between Raptors anywhere in this movie. The only interaction we saw was when the Raptors fight each other. As I mentioned earlier, these Raptors were basically brutes. They had very little intelligence, and as a result, very little social skills, even less than the Raptors in Jurassic Park. 1 out of 4. Back to Grant's fossil discoveries, we knew that Raptors were socially sophisticated dinosaurs. After Grant discovers the resonating chamber, we also learned that the Raptors were much more social than he thought. The resonating chamber was used specifically for communication, and when you compare the size of it in relation to the size of its skull, then you see that this is a dinosaur capable of tremendous communication. That's how they were able to hunt and work together the way they did. We saw them communicate with each other through sounds and body language, and what they were able to accomplish was incredible. These were the most socially sophisticated Raptors we've ever seen up to that point. Now there's one little detail I'd like to mention. These Raptors seem to be somewhat reclusive, keeping only to themselves and their own kind. They didn't tend to communicate with other species on the island, just within their pack. But as I said, these were the most social Raptors up to that point in the series. However, it comes short by a thin line when compared to the next sequel. 3.5 out of 4. In Jurassic World, we were shown a whole new breed of social Raptors. I think the main difference here is that the Raptors had a true alpha present, mainly being Owen. Owen imprinted on them and spent lots of time with them. He nurtured them, raised them, and taught them many things. John Hammond didn't do that with his Raptors. Owen was the link between the Raptors and learning social skills. Being siblings, it was only natural that they learned social skills amongst each other as well. They learned how to interact with one another. Because of this, there were never any killings within the squad like there were in Jurassic Park. And what also makes these Raptors stand out is that they were able to communicate with other species as well. The T-Rex, the Indominus Rex, and even humans. We never really saw that in the other movies the way we did in Jurassic World. This helped us see the Raptors more as socially sophisticated animals rather than brutes looking to kill anything they see. I think Jurassic World showed us the full potential of how Raptors can function socially. A perfect 4 out of 4. In conclusion, Jurassic Park's Raptors had little social skills, while the Lost World's Raptors were brutes with no social skills. Jurassic Park 3 raised the bar to a whole new level, but it's Jurassic World that pushed the boundaries even further as to how social Raptors can be. The win goes to Jurassic World. We learned from Alan Grant that the Raptors were pack hunters. They'd work together and ambush prey, and we saw this executed perfectly when the Raptors killed Muldoon. Same as when the Raptors cornered everyone in the visitor center. Their teamwork was so well executed that there was no escape for their prey. But here's where things get interesting. As soon as the Raptors enter the kitchen, there appears to be a bit of hostility between them, as one of the Raptors bites at the other. And here's another thing. Remember when Muldoon said that the big one killed all but 2 Raptors? So much for teamwork. However, this could have been the big one's way of weeding out the weak members of the pack, keeping the strongest alive, but we don't know that for sure. All we know is that she killed most of the pack. Overall, the teamwork seen in Jurassic Park was extraordinary, but the occasional hostility between pack members gets some points taken off. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 4. Teamwork was not a very strong concept in The Lost World. The only teamwork we saw was during the long grass scene. After that, it was more or less every Raptor for themselves. I didn't see the Raptors as working together, just separate Raptors with the same goal in mind. To prove my point, watch the scene where Sarah brings down the Raptor from the roof. The Raptors could have easily teamed up on her and killed her, but instead of working together, they ended up fighting each other. Again, so much for teamwork. Essentially, The Lost World had very little teamwork in it. The long grass scene saves this movie from getting a 1, so I'm rating The Lost World's teamwork category a 2 out of 4. Grant's fossil discoveries revealed that raptors were able to communicate with each other to a degree he never thought possible. This is why the raptors were able to work together so well. So with this discovery, what else can we learn about their teamwork? Well, with being a pack hunter comes pack mentality. In JP3, the pack was led by a matriarch, who all the raptors would follow, and with a strong leader comes strong followers. Each raptor had their part to play, and each played it perfectly. After all, working together would mean survival. They were all able to work together and coordinate their attacks. They worked together to hunt and even set traps. Most notably, each raptor looked out for one another. Take the scene where the raptor calls for help. All its pack members came to his aid to join the hunt for their eggs. What makes these raptors stand out from the rest is that they always succeeded in cornering their prey because there were essentially no flaws in their teamwork. Flawless teamwork gives them a flawless victory, 4 out of 4. Now we come to Jurassic World, where we were introduced to probably the most memorable team in the series, the Raptor Squad. Growing up as siblings meant that they did everything together. They learned to hunt together, and as a result, learned to work together. They also had pack mentality. Like the Raptors in JP3, their teamwork was very successful as well, because they easily captured their prey without fail. However, I gotta take points off because of one thing: loyalty. Owen was the pack leader, but the Raptors still tried to dethrone him as alpha. On top of that, the Raptors were so easily swayed to join the Indominus Rex. Yes, the Raptors rejoined Owen at the end, but they had to go through a few hurdles to get back together. The Raptors in JP3 never had these issues. Nevertheless, the Raptors in Jurassic World still had excellent teamwork, so I'm going to give them a 3.5 out of 4. In conclusion, with the exception of The Lost World, teamwork was executed perfectly in all the movies. However, with the pack conflicts in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, it makes them outmatched, as it was Jurassic Park 3 that gave us perfect teamwork and perfect cooperation. The win goes to Jurassic Park 3. Throughout the film, there was always this build-up as to how terrifying the Raptors were. Muldoon's warnings, Grant's lesson, we even got a sneak peek at the beginning of the film. There was always this feeling of suspense about the Raptors, and that's a huge reason as to what made them so scary. When it was finally time for them to make their appearance, they made a timeless impact. Who didn't jump at the back in business scene the first time they saw it? To top it off, they massacred Muldoon right after, showing us exactly what they were capable of. That cold-blooded killer look, the lifeless green eyes, their eerie calls, all made these dinosaurs truly frightening. Case in point, the scene where the raptor stares at Grant through the door and opens it. It just goes to show that just because you're in a building, it doesn't mean you're safe from raptors. If anything, you're just easier to corner. When I was a kid, I even used to have nightmares about being chased by a raptor down a dark hall. That's how big an impact they had on me. Truly frightening and truly fearsome. A flawless 4 out of 4. With The Lost World, there was very little build-up to the raptors, so not a lot of suspense was involved as with the first movie. When they made their appearance, they didn't really scare us to remind us that they were the same monsters we remember from Jurassic Park. However, their animalistic design did give the raptors a fearsome edge to them. On top of that, they made sounds which sounded very intimidating. I'd still be scared if I was being chased by one of these raptors, but the first movie gave us the build-up, the suspense, and gave us the action that made the raptors scary. In The Lost World, the raptor scenes were essentially cool action scenes, and I think that's what it comes down to here. The raptors in The Lost World had a certain cool factor to them, but very little fear factor. 2.5 out of 4. When Jurassic Park 3 hinted that we'd see more evolved dinosaurs, I naturally got curious. Grant foreshadowed that if we thought raptors were scary before, then just wait. And what we got was pretty scary. We got to see exactly how deadly the raptors could be without any restraints or restrictions. Especially since JP3 was darker in tone, it made the raptors all the more fearsome, since they were built up as the movie's biggest threat, even more so than the Spinosaurus. But unfortunately, that's where it peaks. Since the raptors were less aggressive and more reclusive, we didn't really see the same kind of raptors we saw in Jurassic Park. Instead, we saw animals that were well organized and more cooperative, but not the relentless monsters we saw in Jurassic Park. That isn't necessarily a bad thing, because we were introduced to a whole new breed of raptors. It's just different than what Jurassic Park accomplished with the raptors in terms of fear. I give this rating a 3 out of 4. Now we come to Jurassic World, which in my opinion gave us the least fearsome raptors. Being the fourth entry in the series doesn't help, since we already know what raptors are like after 3 films. Even in the trailers we saw that the raptors were being trained in captivity, so we really didn't have much reason to be afraid of them this time around. Now, unlike the first film where there was the build-up as to how deadly the raptors were, Jurassic World merely foreshadowed that they can't be tamed, and we as viewers already know that given the first 3 films. In addition, they were portrayed as unique individual characters rather than as animals. Look at it this way. Blue's not just a raptor, she's a character with feelings and has a connection with other characters on an emotional level. This distinction greatly sets these raptors apart from the others, and on that note, the raptors were allies for the majority of the movie. Take the scene where Owen's riding with the Raptors, or when Blue comes to save the T-Rex from the Indominus Rex. We're cheering on for the good guys to win, so there was no fear present because of our attachment to them. Just like the Raptors in The Lost World, they had a certain cool factor to them. But the difference between The Lost World and Jurassic World is that the Raptors in Jurassic World were essentially protagonists that you wanted to cheer for, whereas in The Lost World, they were more fearsome, even if just by a little. So I'm giving the Jurassic World Raptors a 1 out of 4. So to wrap up the fear factor category, Jurassic Park 3 gave us a whole new type of fear with the wild raptors. The Lost World's and Jurassic World's raptors had more of a cool factor to them, but it's the original raptors in Jurassic Park that struck the most fear into us, mostly because of all the build-up. Incorporate the other categories I've discussed, and you have the most fearsome raptors in the series. This category goes to Jurassic Park. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the final scores. Now some of you may be keeping score already, but for those of you who aren't, here we go. Jurassic Park has a score of 24 points. The Lost World has a score of 17 points. Jurassic Park 3 has a score of 23.5 points, and Jurassic World has a score of 19 points. The winner of Best All-Around Raptors is Jurassic Park. It's like how some people say, you can't beat the original. This was no exception. Jurassic Park dominated in many categories. It also came very close in just about every other category. Jurassic Park illustrated best that raptors were vicious, intelligent dinosaurs that could work together to hunt prey. Jurassic Park 3 came very close to illustrating this as well, but classics are considered classic for a reason. The raptors in the other movies may be memorable in their own ways, but it's the original raptors that truly stand the test of time. And one last thought? Who knows what kind of raptors we'll see in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom? My guess? Camouflage and combat raptors. We'll just have to wait and find out. So this concludes another Jurassic Park video by me. Did you agree with my ratings or disagree? Which raptors do you think are the best and why? As usual, talk about it in the comments below. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you next time.